Hello, today we'll be finding out what's in this box from HGLRC, but just before we get into that, a quick reminder, please like or dislike this video if you don't like it, comment down below, don't forget to subscribe, and if you can find that little bell icon, click on it and it might tell you when I'm uploading stuff. So before we get to this box, let's talk about these boxes. These are Kratos 6S lipos from HGLRC, and they sent me these, and just to show you the craziness of a small 6S battery, if we look this way it looks normal, if we look that way they get very big. This is a 300 milliamp hour 6S. This is a 450 milliamp hour 6S. Look at them, massive but sort of small at the same time. And then excitingly, what we have here is the Petrel, a 6S toothpick. Wait, what's that? They've sent me the 4S version. This is not such a bad thing. I talked to HGLRC and said, hey, you've sent me the 4S. I can't test out your lovely little batteries with this 4S because it may explode because the motor kV is very high. They did say that the only difference between them are the kV of the motors, and they can send me some new motors to put on. According to the spec sheet, the ESC is different as well. Or it might just be that they've just changed the description for it. On the 4S version it says it's a 2 to 4S ESC, and on the 6S version it says it's a 3 to 6S ESC, but it's the same model, so hopefully that is the case. But in the meantime I thought, why don't I review it as the 4S? Because of course a lot of people may not want to go 6S lipos and they may not understand the difference between them, but this way I get to test it as a 4S then a 6S, as long as I don't smash it up and stuff. But anyway, let's open it up, see what we get. And we get this guy. This is the FreeSky XM Plus version, and the antenna's coming out here. But it's available as a plug and fly. There's a Crossfire. This is the FreeSky, and there's a FlySky version. And it is a solid little thing. It is 132 mils motor to the motor. It's got a lovely stack here full of the ESC board that says it does 15 amps peak, an F4 flight controller, and a VTX that does up to 400 milliwatts. At the front, the camera is a Cadex EOS 2, which is functional but not particularly nice. And these motors are 1106 3800 kV, and that's the big difference. For the 6S, it's 2400 kV. So we're not talking about extra power, we're talking about a different way of using that power. That's the quad itself. Really, it kind of looks, where it's got these holes, not very strong, but it's not got much flex in it. But that's that. Also in the box, we've got two sets of props. These seem to be, I think, Gemfan 3025 two-bladed props. I've kind of gone off two-bladed props a bit because they sort of slide the quad around instead of making it feel a bit more sort of locked in on the corners, but it's a different way of flying. We'll see how that goes. Got a bunch of spare screws and things, and in this we've got what looks like the instructions, some stickers, and some battery straps. Decent length battery straps, thankfully, because when we're talking about even 4S lipos, and especially these monsters, well, little monster 6Ss, we need a lot of strap to go around that. But yeah, let's get it configured up, let's get it bound, let's put it on Betaflight and see what we need to do, and then we can take it out and fly it. Hopefully not crash it, because at some point we will replace these motors and try it as a 6S config. Okay, so I've just bound the receiver, and now I've just hooked this up to Betaflight, so let's see what's going on there. And yeah, it looks fairly level. The accelerometer doesn't need any work there. So in the ports, we've obviously got the USB connector here, we've got IRC Tramp, and we've got Serial RX for that FreeSky XM Plus, all good there. Configuration wise, motor stop, which I like, D-Shot 600. We're running an 8K loop. This is quite, I suppose you'd call it a slightly older version of Betaflight. It's Betaflight 415. Haven't seen 4.1 for a little while. A couple of things I'd change here, but not much. Just the personalisation, and I don't like the RX Lost on there, just because it can carry on beeping away, burn out the motors. All else is good. Minimum cell voltage, max cell voltage looks pretty good there, not a problem. Failsafe is obviously drop. Bit tuning, what do we got? Ooh, profile 3, rate profile 6. That's all very different, isn't it? So what was on rate profile 1? Slightly different stuff. And what about the rate profile settings? That's rate profile 6. Rate profile 1 looks, I'm going to say the same-ish. We'll try it out and see what it does. I will change this rate anyway, so it's 80 and a bit of expo in there. So receiver wise, as I mentioned, I did bind this. The channel map's ATR, which is what I'm after. It does seem to have RSSI there, but it hasn't got it set up in the channel, so we need to do that. Otherwise the sticks are quite close. Looks like I've got just a little itty bit of sub trimming to do there, but most of the ranges look pretty good, so that's good news. And the modes out of the box, arm, angle and air mode, all on aux 1. Basically as soon as you arm it you're into angle, but that's going to need changing. Nothing in the adjustments tab. And lastly the OSD. I'm guessing it's an NTSC camera as they've got stuff floating around here. I just need to spread stuff out a bit into the four corners and we're good there. And VTX, VTX came in at 4.2, didn't it? I can't remember. But yeah, all looks fairly good, fairly reasonable. I just need to go and fiddle about with it, and then we'll take it out and try and fly this thing, see what happens. So here we are finally out in the field after a couple of weeks of bad weather and circumstances where I just couldn't get out. We're going to fly the little Petrel 132 on 4S. I've got a couple of smaller 4S batteries. I've got these little 260s, which I think are a little bit light perhaps, and then I've got these 450s, which are probably about the right size, looking sort of proportionally. And the next size up I had was 850, which seemed much too heavy. But anyway, I'm going to try and get a little hover on this line of sight because I haven't tried it yet, and then we'll take it out for a proper fly, see how it does. A little bit of breeze about, but nothing too much. I'm hoping this will sort of cut through pretty well. Okay, so line of sight hover, let's just see how it does. So this is pretty stable, very lightweight with this little 260 mAh battery, and obviously quick jip of the throttle. Yeah, plenty of power there. A bit of vibration when it comes down, but that's nothing to worry about. Oh, that's enough for me. I'm looking really forward to getting this in the air now. Let's get the goggles on. And so I plug in my goggles and look through the screen, and I'm like, what's happened to my OSD? I'm sure I set it up, but it seems to have reverted back to normal, or more likely I just didn't hit save. It's got the right font, but it hasn't got all the information I want. Specifically, the thing I'm really missing here, which I like to look at for my own sort of personal feeling of safety, is my RSSI, and I like to show the throttle position so you guys know what's happening. So just to explain, this is the first battery. We're using one of the little 264Ss, and we're on 25 milliwatts. So I thought I'd just see how this will go, because I can't change much on the OSD. I don't have any sort of Bluetooth adapter, and I don't have a PC or tablet out with me so I could do that. So I was just really having a quick fly around to see how it felt, and it felt very nice. It felt very light. It's got that tiny little battery on it, so it was certainly not feeling like there was any weight in the air at all. It felt fairly nippy, fairly acrobatic, felt like you could pretty much do anything you wanted. It didn't feel particularly slow, like it was a smaller quad. Felt pretty nice. And you see me just going out a little bit further here just to test the waters on both the signal and the VTX. The VTX didn't have a particularly good signal, and because this would be a right pain to try and find this quad, what I decided to do was not go too far out until I could put the RSSI information on the screen. So within Betaflight there is an option to go into the OSD page and turn on and off elements. So I could get the RSSI on there at least. What you can't do is arrange it on the screen, so it just goes to the default position. So if there was anything else that I wanted, like the throttle position, it would just go over the top of the RSSI. So I thought, this is better than nothing. I'm just going to have to live with this number on my screen. Now normally I would say, let's knock this on the head, let's just go back and sort this out properly and come back another day. But I'd been waiting several weeks to fly this because of various delays and then not having the weather. So I really wanted to get out there and fly it. Also, during that time where I couldn't fly it, the new motors arrived, so I didn't really want to go back and redo it and fly for us again. I wanted to get out with the 6S batteries and see how that was. But here we are, and I've upped the VTX power to 200, and you can see now that I've got my little safety margin. I'm checking the RSSI, so I'm pretty happy. The signal's pretty good. And yeah, it is flying nicely. This is with a 450 mAh cell. This is one of the Beta FPV 4Ss, and I still don't particularly think it's up to the job. It's okay, it's certainly better than the little 260, but when I put the power down on this one, it really does just eat that battery alive. It really does. And I went harder than this in the next flight, which I'll show you, just to show you how it came about and exactly how that battery lasted. So this is LiPo number 3 and another 450, one of the Beta FPV batteries. And I sort of felt pretty comfortable flying it, so I just wanted to do a little bit more. I wanted to really throw it around a bit and see how it felt. Feels really, really nice in the air. I did notice there is the sound of a flutter, which bizarrely comes in when you put it into sort of a big corner and sort of pull back out again, sort of like these manoeuvres I'm doing at the moment. It's not when it sort of descends through the prop wash, but it's just sort of going around and banking and pulling, which is interesting. And it doesn't seem to generate any vibration that I could see in the goggles, but I could certainly hear it. So I'm wondering if there's a little bit of bendiness on those props, essentially. And you can see here that I'm chucking it around and the throttle's sort of up and down. Unfortunately, we haven't got the throttle percentage there. But you can see that the battery really gets hammered when we try and do anything exciting. Now, what I do notice is that on the HGLRC website, this seems to recommend using the Kratos batteries, which are a high C rating. And for this one, it seems to suggest a 650 milliamp hour. So even without the C rating, as soon as you increase the size of the battery, you can pull more amps on the same C rating than a little 450 like this one. So I'd say that's probably the sort of way to go. I was thinking when I was flying this is going to need at least a 550, something like that. So 650 seems reasonable. Unfortunately, that next step up I had, an 850, does seem like a little bit heavy in comparison to everything else. But yeah, I'm liking the way this flies. We get a little bit of vibration sometimes. It seems we hit a certain little harmonic either on the props, or it's when I'm coming into the wind that we just get a little bit jostled around there, and you can kind of see a little bit of jello in the camera. As said, the camera's nothing special. It's the little EOS 2. It's doing an okay job. It's quite a bright day, so we haven't got a problem, but we've got that sort of reddish hue that the grass takes on, which is pretty typical of the EOS 2, but it's, it's good enough for what we're doing. But certainly I'm really liking the way it feels. It feels very light. It feels like you can pretty much do anything. You can throw it into any corner, and because it's that lightweight, you've got an extra bit of time to cope with on your sort of float time. So it's not like a 5-inch in terms that it's going to drop really hard. It hasn't quite got that same inertia or weight, so you don't really have to worry about it dropping. At the same time, though, when you're doing things like, if you ever do like the inverted going over a tree, don't forget you'll need a lot more speed, because this thing tends to sort of slow down. It doesn't carry itself as much because of that inertia. But great fun to fly. I really enjoyed it. I did take out again and did another battery on that, a little 260 battery that I had, but that's really too light for it. I mean, it felt really lightweight and very agile, but I was just murdering the battery within 30 seconds. So it's not really the recommendation here. I would say go with probably what HGLRC are saying and use something like a 650. That's about right. Anyway, we're bringing this one, and despite me wrecking the battery, we still got a good 3 minutes out of it, which is pretty good, I think. I know, right? What sort of idiot doesn't make sure his OSD set up properly? What can I do? But as I said, I've got the new motors now in these little boxes. They don't look any different, but the KV is 2400 instead of 3800, which is going to make all the difference. So I thought, I can't be doing with taking this back and coming out again, because we haven't had many flying days later. It's like summer's definitely over now and winter's here. But I enjoyed flying this on the 4S. As I said, with those flights, I felt the battery I was using was a little bit underperforming. Those Kratos 650s are probably the right way to go on this one, because it's pretty thirsty when you put the power down, and it feels really rapid, really nimble. A really good little flyer. So if you didn't fancy going the whole hog and thinking those 6Ss, those batteries look a bit crazy, then there's always the 4S version. I think there's several other versions. I think there's a 3S and all sorts as well, where they just essentially vary the KV of the motor to give a sort of different performance. Lovely build. The only thing I would have swapped out is that camera. The EOS 2, it's okay, but it's just okay. It doesn't excel. And a lot of the pieces on here are pretty nice, and I'd like a really nice camera to go with that. But anyway, this has been the 4S version of the HGLRC Petrel 132, and we'll have the 6S version coming up so I can test out these batteries. But I have to say thank you to HGLRC for supplying this review, and of course you can find links down below for where you can check this out. I'll have links to the 4S and 6S version, but join me soon because I'll be replacing these motors with the 6S versions and making my OSD correct, and then we'll be going out and flying it again and seeing just exactly what these lipos can do and what it does to the sort of performance and flight characteristics of something like this. Join me next time. Hope that review's been helpful, and I'll catch you next one. Bye for now. Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.